How did you get into what you're doing? What's your background?
Sure. I've always been fascinated by really tough problems, especially as pertains to what's around the corner in consumer digital, consumer media, and leisure at large. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, I was predominantly focused on the mobile app economy and to a lesser extent, how the major media companies had to transform their business models, their delivery, their tech stack, their incentives, organizations to take advantage of the internet, the mobile internet, and so forth. Subsequent to that, I went to work for Peter Chernin at the Chernin Group. He had raised several $100 million to build, buy, develop, scale companies that were taking advantage of exactly that opportunity. We invested in Twitter, Medium, Pandora, SoundCloud, purchased majority stakes in companies such as Crunchyroll, Barstool Sports. We also helped found a number of companies such as Reese Witherspoon's most recent exit, which is Hello Sunshine. And then my expertise in digital video, which was really a focal point of the Chernin Group, brought me to Amazon. I was the first head of strategy for Amazon Studios, which at the time ran all of Prime Video. And I was brought in to oversee the majority of content investments, that was TV and film, licensed and original, domestic and international, as well as investments not just in individual titles, but our supplier relationships, our talent deals. I left in early 2018 to raise a small amount of capital to invest in what I saw to be the next hard problem. Even as early as 2017, 2018, as we started heading into the streaming wars, digital video seemed to be a bit of a solved problem. That isn't to say that we knew who was going to win or what the margins would look like, but the roadmap to launch an SVOD or subscription video on demand service, the strategies that were required to win, and even some of the programming that was most successful started to sort itself out. What was clear at the time was that gaming was going to become the new frontier for culture, for investments at the venture level, and then also just in determining what's around the corner for culture at large. So I raised some capital, joined some startups, and that in turn led me to the topic du jour, which is the metaverse.
What is it that caught your attention? You saw games and then suddenly you saw something else. How?
Right. Well, I think it helps to really put the metaverse in context from a...
What is it that caught your attention? You saw games and then suddenly you saw something else. How?
Right. Well, I think it helps to really put the metaverse in context from a technological, behavioral, and also just an economic perspective. What is getting big tech and society at large so excited about the metaverse as both a buzzword, but also an area of interest, is this idea that we're seeing a generational evolution of the internet. You'll note that in Mark's unveiling of their metaverse strategy, he defined it in a similar way that I conceive of the metaverse, which is a successor state to the mobile internet. Well, as your audience certainly understands, but even most people understand today, the advent of the internet and then the advancement of the mobile internet led to extraordinary change, not just in the companies we patron and the devices that we use, but the very nature of longstanding industries. If you take a look at two categories that are really simple to understand, you can take a look at telecommunications. Skype emerges, ICQ emerge in the 1990s. Then we get to the mobile internet, and yet again, we see telecommunications disrupted. Snapchat and WhatsApp. We get to the late 2010s, where we start to get into this early metaverse transformation. Communication services are disrupted yet again, primarily through social networks in gaming like Fortnite, but more importantly from Discord and others. Another great category would be in payments. You look at the emergence of PayPal in the 90s, its growth throughout the 2000s. Then, of course, you reach the mobile internet era, and it happens again. We get Square, we get Stripe, we get Shopify, we get Venmo. And now we're starting to get to cryptocurrencies, as you well know, and they start to transition into the metaverse. And so at a baseline level, the excitement for me is we're seeing this multi-decade transformation that is really starting to begin right now, in which we expect most categories to be opened right up, and yet our ability to precisely understand which companies are at risk, which models are yet to emerge, what the behaviors that support each of those companies will be, that's an open question. For investors, that's opportunity. For analysts, that's intellectual curiosity. And for consumers, it's an enormous opportunity for new benefit, for new experiences. As relates to my journey in gaming, look, the fantastic thing here is no one really expected, as a case in point, that the next generation of the internet would come from mobile gaming, and yet here we are. And yet, to that same token, I don't think that many people thought that the most powerful companies of the social or Web 2 era We're going to come in one instance from a sexting application, in another instance from a hot or not turned collegiate fraternizing social service. In this instance, it happens that it's coming from a virtual sandbox for kids in Roblox. It is coming from a battle bus battle royale in Fortnite. And even as we see right now, the memification of NFTs has elements of speculation. There's going to be elements that lead nowhere. And yet it's very clear that it is pioneering structural change in our economy.
First, the difference and where they combine the metaverse, virtual reality, and augmented reality, because these things are all hurtling together at a frightening pace from different players as well.
Totally. I think I'm of the belief that extended or mixed reality, XR, AR, VR, are better understood as parts of the metaverse, much like we would consider the mobile phone, a connected television, an internet-equipped car to be extensions of the internet or the mobile internet. They are not the mobile internet itself. It's helpful to think about XR as part of the metaverse because it's the most distinctively different and new.
When you say XR, what do you mean?
Extended reality or mixed reality, as others mean. But it's a good catch-all term for virtual reality in which you're inside of a dedicated headset and you're receiving no other visual information from the world around you.
So my Oculus Rift is that?
Correct. Yes. Okay. Then you have augmented reality, which, as the name suggests, you are seeing the real world, but you are layering in additional information. Others start to talk about more extended reality devices, which is more just thinking about the ways in which any device you have interacts with the world around you. I'll give two examples. Apple is now putting a type of chip into newer iPhones and Apple Watches that are capable of putting out 500 million radar pings per second. What that allows your devices to do is have precise understanding of the environment around you and then activate it. So we have this situation where today with an NFC chip, let's say you want to open your door in your home. Someone's come. Well, you come close to the door and then the door either requires you to physically touch it or you need to come so close that it doesn't know if you're on one side of the door or the other side or what your intent is. So you have these terrible outcomes, which is you walk by your door and you've unlocked it. With these pulses, there's a degree of precision in information that can be mixed with AI to understand intent, to correlate with other sensory information, which is a Ring doorbell, to know that Matt's on this side of the door, Matt intends to open the door, and similarly, to understand exactly where that door is relative to your device in a way that cumbersome technologies like Bluetooth and RFID or NFC cannot.